All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to our first edition of EvenTalk, hosted by Tukio. Today we have Craig Fletcher with us, who very excited to have Craig. He's had an awesome career in both the events and the gaming industry. I'm your host, Jason Schuster, and let's get this thing started. So, Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Give us, I don't know, maybe the three.
Sorry, I'm just going to turn off all these annoying things. Go do not disturb right now. Yeah. But trust me, I've worked in events and everything. Turn your mobile phone off before going on air, etc.
That's right.
Yeah, so a bit about me. So I've been involved in sort of the games industry I started running gaming events in '94, like very early LAN parties.
Wow.
People would get together and use coax cable with terminators to basically hook up their machines and play games like Doom 2 and sort of the original Warcraft and stuff like that. Originally I was going to be a doctor, so I went off to study medicine, but I was doing these events along the side as I was building it. So it was definitely a hobby turned business. Games has always been a hobby from a very early age. Long and short of it is that the events got bigger. 20 people coming to a hotel with coax cable became 100, became 500, became 1,000, and now you sort of have the Insomnia events in the UK, which are 3,000 PCs plus tens of thousands of visitors coming as well. So they've become proper festivals of gaming. So I was doing, it was all about tournaments that started as well. So I was doing esports long before it was called esports. Right. And that's a long time ago. But and then we also built a global network of gaming servers. So the places where people play virtual AstroTurf pitches as well. And we launched that in 2002, back in the days when it was only Call of Duty and Medal of Honor were the servers of choice, alongside Counter-Strike. Right. And that grew really rapidly as well. And that's also moved on. So fast forward 2015. So that's like literally a long time in a short period of time. Right. Out of the blue, we got an offer to buy the business, and we sold to Game, which is effectively the GameStop of the UK. And they were very keen in our events business, our esports business, and also what we were doing in terms of online. So spent time there building up their sort of esports competitive gaming operation, and at the same time started doing investment into the gaming space, backing several companies directly, getting involved in funds. And now, actually, having left Game a couple of years ago, most of my time has been spent helping games companies or companies in the gaming space, and financial firms, find people to invest in, because it's still like this unusual space that a lot of investment funds are like, gaming, should we touch that? It's like, no, guys, this is the biggest entertainment industry on the planet. Come on, get on with it.
Right.
Get over yourselves. Get over yourselves. It's going to get bigger. Time to learn. So yeah, so that's the sort of the whistle stop tour of what's it now? 26 years of being in the games and events industry.
And that was all, and that company, that was Multiplay, right?
That was Multiplay, yes. So Multiplay, there were the two sides to it. There was the events business where we did Insomnia Gaming Festival, but we also ran Minecon for several years. We did things like RuneFest for Jagex. We ran a lot of, events where we're wearing someone else's t-shirt. We used to do a lot of contract work like that as well, because we just loved creating events for people to enjoy. And the other side of it was the global hosting business, which is now at Unity. So Unity bought that off Game. So it's like all got
right.
So yeah. So it's changed a lot in those times. The technology's changed a lot. The things we were playing on back in the days. I mean, you go to an event now, I doubt many people would even know what a modem is, or they might recognize the sound of one if they've heard it in history class. But the things that have changed. It's people forget we've only had smartphones 13 years. It's
true. It's true. Well, and it's funny. I remember LAN parties. I'm 32 now. Gosh, am I 32?
You're a bit young to be saying, back in the day, I remember.
Back in the day, I know. It's but I'm past 30, so now I can. I think I've earned the right now to say back in the day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember Counter-Strike LAN parties, and the biggest one for me that I remember, it wasn't PC gaming parties, but it was Xbox Halo 1. The
original Halo, absolutely.
Like that was, and that was really more of the LAN experience that I had, which really wasn't technically LAN, right? But it was, I mean, it was still, usually getting 16 people, big sleepover or all-nighter. And by the end of the night, you get really good. You got your sensitivity turned up and you're like, all right, I've got this. And then 2 days later, you're back to being, a normal player. But
absolutely. I mean, that's still a LAN party. Technically, it's still a LAN. It still is. Right. I remember one of the first events we did when the first Xbox came out. We had to figure out how to connect it to get them to play locally on LAN because it hadn't been done before outside of Seattle. And so we actually had several calls with the team over in Seattle because we were doing the first time it was going to be seen outside of Microsoft in the UK. In fact, in Europe, probably at one of our events, and figuring out how to make sure this lovely Halo exhibit actually worked and could play against each other and stuff. It was just love problems like that.
I love it, and that's such a cool experience. I mean, just not just being involved in it, but I mean, really being at the heart of it, and getting involved with companies like JagX. I mean, RuneScape has been running for 20 years now, and it still
keeps going. And they bring back the old version, and it does better. It's people just love the game. And tell you what, the event that we did for it, it's like a mini BlizzCon basically. Some of the fans are putting hundreds of hours into costumes and themed areas, and it's brilliant. And JagX are a company that really goes for it. They don't, no expense spared for their community or their staff, shall we say, at events like that. So
that's right.
They have a bar inside their office. I mean, that's very British. That's a very British thing to do. Have a pub inside your office. I mean,
it is. It's very British, and I would say it's also maybe a little East Coast if you're in the U.S.
Yes. Exactly. Oh.
I'm loving it. And today you said you're involved with VC firms trying to get helping them with investing in the space. Obviously, the game industry is just it's just a monster, right? Was 190 billion last year, something like that.
It's huge, and it's double-digit percentage growths. It's one of the many areas of entertainment industry that's grown. I mean, in coronavirus, we've seen humongous increases in games revenues. I mean, there was like 5x in some games between the month before a lockdown and the month during a lockdown in terms of revenues. Because I mean, what else can you do if you can't go out? I mean, you can exercise indoors, but a lot of us just turn to the games. I mean, I actually joke with some people. It's like, us gamers have been practicing this for years, guys. I mean, this lockdown stuff is easy. There's more time to finish the games. Come on. And everyone else is freaking out and going, "Oh, I'm going to go out." And stuff. It's like, we trained for this. We were ready.
We trained for this. That's right. That's right. And I'm the minority, but I've been working from home for 6 years before this. So when this happened, I was like, okay, nothing changes for me. I just stay here. Maybe I'll play a little bit more video games just to join the trend. Just to
or you have the opposite, where you actually end up working more because you're at home. So I know, you said to exactly. So I do a bit of work. I do quite a few different things these days. I'm still involved in the events. I still love going to the events. I mean, they're still going. I mean, someone's saying that LAN parties were the best. No, come on, LAN parties are the best. They still exist. Still go to them. Come on. They're a lot of fun. I mean, it's an excuse to go away and play games nonstop for a whole weekend while drinking beer with your mates. That's just what better weekend could you have as a gamer? Come on. You're going to get a lot of responses to that. Yeah. And yes, absolutely. So I help. One of the things is because I've gone through the process of starting with nothing, building a company that I think at the peak had over 120 people, and all the pain you go through, the emotional roller coaster you go through. So, I spend a fair bit of time helping founders who are just starting on their journey or a fair way along it, to sort of help them, not make the same mistakes I did, and sort of guide them along the way. So I think it's just advice, because I wish I had someone like that when I was doing this. I'd love to pay it forward to the next lot and see if I can help them, whether I can help them raise funding, whether I can help them just with general advice, whether I join a few boards, things like that. And who knows, we may return to the events industry again sometime, because although I fear we're not going to see another, I mean, people talking about insomnia in the chat, I fear we won't see an insomnia this year. We had hoped to have one in August. That was what I was hoping for. But I think with new variants and the vaccine rollout and things like that, it's not a great time for the events industry in general, and not just games events. It's just not a great time for the events industry. I have a lot of friends who work in it, contract, because a lot of it's still contractors. It's a lot of independent people who just their living is going from event to event to event, whether, you're a lighting technician, a rigger, whatever, you're an audiovisual, whatever you work in. A lot of these people are self-employed because they go from contract to contract, and it's horrendous for them at the moment. And certainly in the UK, there's not been a lot of support forthcoming, unfortunately. So I worry for the future of the events industry in general, what there will be left of it when we come out of COVID. There'll be a lot of rebuilding to do. And that'll be such a shame, because, I think one of the first things a lot of people are going to want to do is go to a festival. There weren't any music festivals last year. There probably won't be any music festivals this summer, certainly in the UK, I don't think. And as people are saying there, it's one thing for us being allowed to do it, as in the government saying, it's okay now. You can go to football matches, you can go to stadiums, you can go to live events and live music. It's another thing for people to actually do it after they, if the virus is still circulating and people are worried. So, but one of the things I hope people do is, when we do go back to live events, flock back to them, because those people are going to be on their knees and need every support they're going to need to get back up and running again. So
absolutely. Oh, and I love we have some comments in here. Wood Bravo was saying that even if they were on, he wouldn't attend. Just from a health perspective, and I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. Obviously, I'm here in the U.S. I'm in Austin, and I would say a lot of my fellow Americans would probably go, even if it wasn't allowed.
Well, yes.
This is how Americans operate, right? This is for better or worse.
Absolutely. There'll certainly be a subset of Americans that wouldn't care anyway, because coronavirus doesn't exist. I mean,
oh goodness. No comment.
Make lands great again. You'll get a lot of people at one of those.
Oh my goodness. Well, and so here's something interesting. So obviously, the traditional events industry, obviously, it's been decimated. I mean, there's event organizers that are gone. They're not coming back. They're just they weren't ready for it. Nope. Especially in the game space, a lot of esports organizations that they're thriving on things, Super Smash Con, those kinds of things. They're hurt, and we're hoping we can come back. Some people have made that pivot to virtual events, but how is that really going to? How's that going to work for, let's just say, the gaming industry? Just for shucks, let's focus. That's your expertise. How is that going to play out?
There's been a lot of attempts at this, and the feedback so far is that there really hasn't been a good execution of a virtual event so far. I think on the B2B side, it's been okay, as in, trade shows, because effectively it's a glorified meeting manager. You just know you're going to be in talk to people mode for 4 days for whatever event it is on Meet to Match, and you meet a lot of people. But even then, so many people just aren't there that would be at the physical event. Right. And I think that's a real shame. The one activation I think it's worth mentioning was what the Devolver guys did. They actually made a game, and in that game was their expo.
Right.
And that was a really good way of doing it. There's another. I thought I turned off my sounds. 2 seconds.
Devolver. Now, you and I had a conversation. Oh gosh, it would have been a month ago now. You said that was even available on Steam, right? I mean,
they basically made a game, and inside was the convention, and I think that's one of the great ways, and it was very well received. I think that was great. So you actually built it in the game, and you walk around it, and you could play things and things like that. Because some of the shows, it's been like, but I could just watch all this on YouTube. Why should I go to a virtual event and pay a virtual ticket when you're just showing me your YouTube videos?
Right.
There's not any interactivity. There's things like that. I think that's what's missing. And I don't think anyone's really cracked a truly interactive virtual event experience. I mean, obviously, I don't think anything will ever be as good as physically being there with the people, because we're very social animals. But if we can get the next best thing when we're not able to, and we can take away, for example, the huge cost, travel, both environmental and cost of getting to some of these shows. I mean, by now I'd have gone to America 3 times this year. I've gone to mainland Europe multiple times. None of it. So my carbon footprint this year is dramatically better.
Right, I was gonna say, yeah, the Earth is probably breathing a little easier because the carbon footprint is a little better. But also some of these cities that have pretty serious pollution problems, Los Angeles, Chicago, their skies are pretty clear right now.
Yeah,
and interesting, right?
Absolutely, and it's one of the things I really hope actually we learn from it. I fear a lot of people won't, and it'll be forgotten as soon as people just go back to normal too quickly. But it used to be, I mean, you've obviously been doing it for years, but working from home was viewed with disdain by so many employers. It's as if you're working from home, you're lazy and you're not working. Right. How do we know what you're doing? It's like, well, that's just an old way of looking at it. I mean, just there's ways, results-based management, just know what people. Does it matter if someone's doing what you want them to do? Does it matter if it took them a day or 5 days? It's like that sort of approach. And I hope that more people avoid. What have I locked up? My video.
Yeah, just for a second. Probably give it a minute there.
Yeah, it might have just hung. Oh no, you can still hear me though by the sound of it.
I can still hear you, and at least you're doing a normal face. You're not. It's not.
Yeah, it didn't catch me in some horrendous thing. It looks like my Logitech camera has just completely hung it. Oh my god.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. We'll give it a minute.
We'll give it. I'll just try and I'll switch camera. There you go. You can get to see my ridiculous office behind here, and then we'll go back and see if it works. Oh, it works.
Turn it off and on again.
Everyone. Turn it off and on again. Turn it off and on again. It works every time.
That's right.
So I just hope that people embrace the new way of working. Too many people spend too much of their lives commuting to and from an office where, for the most people, they don't need to be there to do their job. They could do that job at home. I mean, obviously, there's huge numbers of exceptions where you physically can't do it from home, like if you work in a factory or healthcare or education, all these sorts of things. So I think it's but if you can, even if just people worked at home 40% of their time, the impact of not even forget the environmental impact, which is huge, but the cost to them for that train ticket or the commuting cost or whatever, but also their quality of life. Some people spend 4+ hours a day in the car or on the train going to and from work. It's
true, especially, big metropolitans like London. I know a lot of people spend their time on commuting, New York City, Silicon Valley. Some people are just straight up driving 2.5 hours to get to Silicon Valley because, well, they can't afford to live in the valley. One,
who can?
Who can? Yeah, who can? So yeah, you're 100% right. But I mean, engineering certainly can be done from home. A lot of that, finance, marketing, these things. You're right. A lot of it can be done from home, at least 40% of the time, and that can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. So there we go. So I think it's So I hope people learn the lessons. I hope people learn a lot of lessons, but I do fear that we'll just go back to doing everything exactly as we did before. Healthily skeptical.
So one other thing, obviously, Tokyo, full disclosure, we're trying to solve that experience problem from a virtual event side, but we also know that virtual events isn't going to be the only thing. Live events are going to come back. So part of that experience we think is going to be hybrid events, and I think there's several other companies that believe that. But so when we transition to hybrid events, right? How do event organizers combat this trend that most events are free or the cost has been driven down for attendees? Are people going to go right back into paying huge ticket prices to go to live events, or how's that going to get managed?
Well, exactly. I mean, obviously events can't be free, and frankly, anyone who's ever run an event with a free ticket will tell you, a physical event, people just don't show up because they're not invested in it. So even if you want to make it almost free, you need to have people pay something so they're going to turn up. Otherwise, they literally go, "I didn't cost anything, so I really can't be asked. I'm not going to bother going." That's basically what you see a lot. I mean, as much as half the event doesn't turn up. So at least if they put down, say, tenner or something, that means they've at least there's a cost for not going then. But in terms of live events, I mean, music events, the sheer cost of putting on a live music event, the ticket prices have to be what they are. And frankly, that's where the artists are making their money these days anyway. They haven't been making money out the recorded side of music for a long time. So live events is really where the money's made in music, and that's going to be hurting a lot at the moment. So yeah, I think that people honestly though, I don't think people are going to not want to pay. Certainly the people I've talked to, and we could probably do a poll of the people in the audience here, is I think people are going to be champing at the bit to go to a live event once they are able to, and they feel safe to do so. And I think they're just going to go for it. So I'm hopeful that the next Insomnia event that goes up, for example, will just go boom, and maybe be the biggest one ever. I hope that. So that's what I hope, and I think I just hope that the supporting infrastructure of companies that all events rely on, temporary security, riggers, people who build the stands, all those sorts of people are still around and haven't all become Amazon drivers. Because I'm seeing a lot of that at the moment. People literally becoming delivery drivers because they've got no work. And they're going to do something. I think someone delivered our shop the other day who was a pilot. Is his day job, and he's delivering groceries now. It's that's how bad it is getting for some people, which is horrible. So let's hope we can get back on top of it.
It's true. I know a lot of people that have gone to work as your personal shoppers at grocery stores, for things like Instacart or whatever it happens to be, and driving. And I for one thing, I'm grateful that we live in a society where those are even options on the table. Absolutely. In a time like this. But at the same time, yes, I'm hoping that all of these people can get back into what they actually love doing, which I know exactly. The event industry is full of passionate people. I mean, absolutely. You have to be.
Don't get me wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a delivery driver and doing stuff like that. We need these people to do that. But if someone's gone through all the training to become a pilot, we need them flying airplanes, not delivering things. If someone spent their life learning how to be the most kick-ass lighting or audio technician or something like that, we need them doing those events so we can have these live events back. I just hope we can get them back afterwards. That's the concern, because we're going to lose a lot of. You have a massive brain drain, I suppose, is the way to describe it, of people who've just have had to go out, have to leave the industry just to do something to put food on the table for their families. Absolutely.
Well, and some of those jobs are so specialized. I have to imagine that the people that get involved in those specific skills, they have to be passionate about that. Otherwise, why? Yeah. Why would you go? Why would you go so niche unless you were passionate? So yeah, I would imagine those people they'll be trying to get back because they enjoy it. Yeah. I mean, I also know people who love driving. They love being delivering or driving truck across. So there's passion comes in.
As long as you're doing what you love doing, that's the key thing. Whatever that is, absolutely whatever that is. And I think also to do live events, you need to almost have to hate yourself, because the amount of effort, the lack of sleep, the hours you have to put in to meet the deadlines of like get in and get out and rig and de-rig, all that sort of stuff. It's like, if you like your sleep, it's not for you. and if you only want to work a 9 to 5, definitely not for you. Try 18 plus hour days when you're rigging and stuff like that. But if you love it, it doesn't feel, it doesn't feel bad. It's just that, and it's the sense of achievement as well after you've put all that effort in and you see what you've built come together. So I'm hoping you're right. I'm hoping they'll all come back and do that. You probably want to pop back to the bit about the hybrid events. I mean, that is why I sort of trying to set that back up for you. In terms of you're right. Obviously, nothing really compares to being there, but it's physically impossible for quite a lot of people to get to these events. So any way to amplify, the experience to people who couldn't make it in person would be a great thing. I mean, we talked about doing a virtual ticket for Insomnia for many years. What would that look like? You know, and expand the audience massively. You know, have front row seats. I mean, they've done it for concerts and things like that, haven't they? Now, but what does it mean? Rather than it being just something you sit in a fixed position and experience, how do you take that to I'm actually going to be walking around? Oh God!
I think you got some audience members that are saying hi to you.
There's a few of my crew turning up now. Oh, Adrian, I don't miss those days. He got old. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so there's yeah, exactly. I think it's anything that can amplify the event, but fixing that issue of how do you make it more interactive for people joining from home who couldn't afford to fly from America to the UK or vice versa, or you know, whatever, or weren't available, so could only come to a small part of it, so they want to tune in the evening to whatever's happening and catch up with their friends. So that's interesting. I mean, obviously there's things like Discord and stuff like that. People can jump on if it's a gaming event, and they can jump into text channels or video channels or things like that. But it's still not the same as actually moving around the expo and seeing what was on and things like that. So it'd be interesting to see how you guys are going about solving that.
I think everyone will be happy when we roll that out for everybody. But certainly, I mean, the things, personal experience, being in the gaming industry for almost 4 years now, we'd love to go to GDC every year. And for us, we're already in the US, and it's not that far away, but It's still too expensive for an early stage startup in the game industry to try and move their team out to GDC. Tickets are expensive. Trying to get a hotel is ridiculous. And even just travel is up there. So certainly there's a place for hybrid events, and coronavirus has accelerated the demand for a solution. And I'm seeing several solutions out there. Obviously, you know, Tukio, we'd love to be that solution, but we know there's going to be lots of solutions. And I'm looking forward to the market answering that call, that demand, so that those startups that would love to be at these events, or even, you know, Gamescom. I'd love to go to Gamescom.
Oh, yes. Your liver doesn't want you to go to Gamescom, by the way. And your liver will not want you to come to Gamescom. Because unlike California, they don't stop serving alcohol at 2 a.m. in Germany. So, and yeah, it's so absolutely. So yeah, I mean, Gamescom is brilliant. It's a great industry event, but you're right. It's a fortune. I mean, if you do a full ticket for GDC, what's that? $2,500 for a full ticket for GDC? Then good luck finding any hotel in downtown San Francisco for less than $500 a night. Right. Close to the event. So people end up way out of it, and then commuting in each day, which is a nightmare. San Francisco traffic. Yeah, back in there. So it's incredibly expensive. And if you have to move the team out there, I mean, getting return on investment on that, like say it costs you 4 members of your team, and it costs you, even though you're in the US, it still costs you 10 grand. Now that's a lot. That's a chunky cost to put up for a startup. How are you going to get your ROI? It's that sort of thing. And then if you even think about putting an expo stand up or something like that, I mean, yeah, you can just start multiplying that many times. So absolutely, it is worth it. I mean, and to be honest, I say to some people in the industries, sometimes you don't need to buy the ticket. You just need to be in town and just go to the certain bars where people hang out. Like classic one for GDC, it's the W or the Marriott. That's basically meeting central of people perched on any surface possible, floors, everything, having their meetings because they don't want to go into the expo. You know, it's more comfortable, and you can get served drinks and food. So that's how a lot of people do it. And we used to, at E3 each year, we used to hire a booth at one of the restaurants in LA Live, and people would just come along and order food because we had a minimum spend. And we say, like, have whatever you want. We never hit the minimum spend. So, because we just had to have minimum spend to have it. But it's brilliant. And people loved coming out and having a break from the expo, the madness of the expo, sitting down, having a drink, having a meeting, and then going away again. Back to it. Sort of like a pit stop.
Right. I love that. And obviously, yeah, hybrid solution. It's not going to duplicate that. That experience is unique. It's one of a kind. You have to be there. But certainly, you know, things like matchmaking, you know, being able to get good meetings, you know, meet the right people, those things can still be done in a hybrid setting. And I think that's where those are the tools that are gonna make it in the market, and that'll last in the market. So, by the way, we're pretty much at the end of our time here, but last minute here, just kind of final thoughts on events, or just maybe that general advice, right? Someone who's in the event industry who's trying to hang on.
I mean, it is tough out there. If you're in the events industry, it is tough. And people just you have to get creative. You have to get back to the entrepreneurial roots and just find ways to keep going. I mean, it's whether that's doing a virtual event that just has a tiny ticket price or something like that. You may have to, unfortunately, bite the bullet and go do something else short term. Obviously, look at whatever support there is available from your local government. Obviously, because people could be from anywhere on here. The government support, anything like that, furlough schemes, grants, applications, all this sort of stuff. You've got to go through all of that, but just try and find things that you can keep doing, and there will always be a way. And if you try, just don't stop, and number one, don't give up. This will come to an end at some point. The vaccine program will roll out, and we will bring an end to this. Either that, or we will have to learn to live with it, and in which case things will go back to pretty much normal anyway, certainly for people who aren't in the high risk groups. Right. And it'll just be maybe something we have to learn to live with. But I think the vaccination is looking good, and we'll return to normal, and have faith that people are crying out for live events again. And I think it's going to be a bumper period when we come back from COVID. So don't lose faith. Keep the hope, and be ready to get back involved as soon as this crazy world restores some normality again.
That's right. I like that term. It'll be a bumper time.
Yeah.
I like that. That. Awesome. Hey, Craig, thanks for being here, man. I love it. Always a good time. Absolutely. Would love to have you again sometime in the future.
More than happy to. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks to our audience. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Everyone, have a good one.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.